a couple of months before we go to that city, we poll our database, and we actually poll on the evals if there's somebody on your team that you would like to nominate as an honoree. If I could get somebody on my team to help me get some more chairs in the back. I think I see someone coming. Lorenzo, can you get Charlene so we can get some more chairs? Can somebody grab someone on my team, Charlene, up at the registration desk to come in here because they can't hear me? I need... Anyway, one of the things that we've been doing is we've been polling our local database, and we do it as today you saw on the evaluation. So I have a group of people that we are going to honor today for just all your hard work in the industry. We know everyone here is just the profession of being a cyber practitioner. We know that you all work hard. We wish we could honor all of you, but we have this event and try to have fun. Can you get them to get some more chairs in the back? Okay. So anyway, with all that being said, thank you all for your hard work, but let me go ahead and introduce some of our honorees today. And not only do we have a certificate in here, we have a token of our appreciation in here as well. I have Nasser Haj Ali. He's the IT manager for the Texas Heart Institute. Nasser, come on up. Then I have Robert Perez. He's the U.S. Information Security Officer. Congratulations. For DHL Express. Congratulations for your hard work. I have Rajiv Prabhu is the CISO from Spectrum Global Payment Solutions. Rajiv, are you here, Rajiv? Some of these people are so important they can't even stay all day. So, Scott Idy is the IT security manager at Landry. Scott, are you here? I know these people were here because they checked in. Wendy Albert is the senior security engineer at Edward Jones. Wendy, are you here? Yay, Wendy, come on up. I have April Marquez as the IT manager at River City Produce Company. Congratulations. April, are you here? I have Deandra Holman. I'm sorry, I probably messed your name up. Who is the IT cybersecurity analyst at Medtronic. Thank you. Congratulations. I have Faustine Carreras from Incom. And Faustine, are you here? And for some reason, they didn't put your title on there. Congratulations. I have Linda Verder. She is a senior InfoSec assessment analyst at Harris Health Systems. Congratulations. It's so nice to see so many women. Like there used to be a time we'd have maybe one or two, so it's great. So I have Ivelisse Torres, who is our keynote speaker today, who did a wonderful job. She's the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer at Medtronic. I have Harvey Nusz, who is a data privacy officer at EPA, and everybody knows Harvey, and he's going to moderate our panel today. He stepped in at the last minute when I had a cancellation. Paul Yoder, who is the Associate Vice Chancellor, CISO over at Lone Star College. Paul is sitting on our panel today as well. Thank you. I have Anna Drier, who is the Director of InfraGard Houston and Vice President of South Texas ISSA. Thank you, Anna, for being here today. And last but not least, another person who did a great job today, Neal Quinn, who's the head of cloud security services in the CISO at Radware, who did a great job and one of our platinums today. Where is Neal? Oh, there you are. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Harvey. We definitely want you all to be interactive and listen to how quiet it is. It's never this quiet at when we do it in the vendor room. So thank you for all the sponsors for being quiet. We appreciate that because we are streaming this and all that background noise picks up. So if there are any conversations, if you don't mind taking them out into the hallway, we appreciate it for the stream. With that being said, let's welcome our panelists.
Excellent, and we have until when?
You have until 5:11.
Perfect. All right, thank you. So welcome everybody. We're going to get to you for questions quickly. We're going to set a baseline of information here first. I'll ask some questions of our panelists. And as I ask you the question, tell us a little bit about you, about yourself, just a couple of minutes, and get ready to have closing comments when we finish. And Mr. Yoder, as promised, I am going to start with you. And yes, you'll have to share the microphone. So yes, thank you. So
Testing.
There you go. Good job. So you were telling me when you go in, you just started a job as a CISO. What do you do? Take about 2 to 4 minutes. What do you do? And tell us about this roadmap and how we might be able to share that. Thank you.
One of the things that you want to do is take stock, basically, of what is in place currently, and then do a little bit of analysis on it to see if that's cutting the mustard, basically, or if you need to reinvent things and re-engineer things. I have kind of developed my own roadmap over the years that seems to be pretty effective at spotting weaknesses and gaps in security. And that's what I use to basically look at all of the facets of a multi-level security program. So that's one of the first things that I'm going to do. Professional assessments are always, something that you should do, whether it's a full NIST audit, which is what we just went through right now, our very first one at Lone Star College, or to have a penetration test performed at least once a year. You need that feedback to tell you, what your gaps are, where you're not, coming up to snuff basically in your security program. So those are some of the first things that I would look at and try to assess.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Neal, emerging threats. Tell us about that, and then we're going to Anna after that. Emerging threats.
Okay, so emerging threats that I see, obviously you saw me talk a lot about the geopolitical backdrop. Application layer attacks in all forms are big threats. Blending together some sort of data exfiltration with some availability attack or something, smoke screens, very big out there. And a lot of people that I speak to are interested in talking about API security now. It's a big topic. There are a number of quality players out there. Everybody's looking for some guidance and solutions around that.
Excellent. Anna, you've got some good ties. Let's pass the microphone. You've got some good ties with InfraGard
Yes.
and with the FBI. So what are you hearing about some of these emerging threats?
Anything with AI. Anything that has AI capabilities. I can give you a really good example. There was an AI roundtable that I attended recently, and the AI program was programmed to attack military bases, and they ran it through a simulator, and I know that some people may have attended this exact same roundtable. The simulator said, okay, attack. It went on attacking nicely. So then they said, well, let's see what the AI does outside of its scope. So then instead of attacking the military bases like it was supposed to, the operator gave it a command and said, no, don't attack the military base. So what did the program do? For those of you who know, it attacked the operator, and it shut down the operator and killed the operator. So then they said, okay, so now AI is thinking on its own. It thought outside the scope. They fixed that. They went back, ran the program again, and they said, what is AI going to do now? What's it going to think on its own now? So AI goes around, is operating within scope, and they said they wanted to think again outside of scope. So they gave a command, kill something outside of scope. And so what did AI do? It killed a radio tower, killed the communication between the radio tower, because now it wanted to think outside of scope. So anything with an AI capability, in my opinion, is the biggest threat to our environment and quantum computing.
Thank you. We're going to hit IoT in a minute. I'm going to take some questions from the audience. If you've got some, I'm going to go there in just a minute. But first, tell us about privacy, your privacy concerns. I didn't hear about that today, yet you signed up on my list of privacy. You're interested in that. What are the threats? Are companies getting involved in this enough? What are your thoughts on this?
Been introduced a few times, but Ivelisse Torres, and Medtronic being a global company, privacy is huge for us, right? We operate in many different countries all over the world, so we have to follow a numerous amount of privacy laws. If certain data is compromised, we have to send out notifications within a certain manner. Every country has its own rules you have to follow and follow up on. Also, if we have any type of data compromised, right, then even if it's not, let's say, exfiltrated, we still need to make ourselves responsible for advising maybe the employee or checking to see if the wrong person saw the wrong thing. So I think from a data privacy perspective at a company, a medical company, that's always going to be a big concern.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to come back with some more questions around that, including the TDPSA and discovering your data. But do we have any questions out here? Anyone would like to ask a question? I'm supposed to not walk in front of something or another. Any questions? No questions? Come on, guys, help us out here. This is for your benefit here. Okay. So, Joseph, I knew I could count on you. Thank you. Speak into the microphone, sir.
So on emerging threats, do you feel that deep fakes and misinformation will be one of the concerns that we should be worried about?
And how do we detect that?
Yeah.
Who wants to tackle that?
Yes, so with deepfakes and emerging threats, there's a lot of, in fact, the FBI just released something today, I think, about deepfakes and deepfake technology, and they're saying limit your voice print, limit your facial, limit what you put on social media. Who can actually control that? Who can control how much you put on social media? Your picture's being taken every single day. You're on camera every single day. People are trying to get your voice print every single day because you answer the phone and you say hello, right? And you do it to numbers that you do and don't know. So how do we combat that? How? You can limit what you say. You can say hello. You can answer in a different voice. You can answer in a different dialect. You can do things to protect yourself, like having call blockers. You can limit yourself with, I'm sorry, what's the voice print call blocker thing that they have? I can't remember what it's called. But you can do things like that. But as far as social media, there have been times that people have proven that you can take deepfake technology just from one picture and in 5 words, and that's all it takes. 1 picture and 5 words. So protect yourself, take your stuff off social media if you want to, but going dark is not an option.
Do we have any other comments on that? You guys are going to, there you go.
I think about this in terms of kind of tactical attack fighting. And, I've seen this used, AI has improved dramatically the ability to generate believable phishing emails, text calls. In attack fighting, if you've been able to enumerate the members of an organization because your marketing department has uploaded your org chart into one, you can do a whole lot of damage. just by, faking, a call from the boss, a call from the CEO to wire money, things like that. I've been encouraging people to use old school passphrases as authentication, especially, for a live event, incident response. Something to be thinking about because it's already there and it's a simple phone call. Hey, stop this, turn this off, don't do this, and then suddenly, your incident has spiraled into something significantly larger.
So what I did was I told my bank I didn't want them to use my voice to identify me. And I finally convinced them that I didn't want them to do that. And so we're using my mother's maiden name. And I think I'm using the correct spelling. It's a tough spelling anyway. Then I was talking with a friend at a conference that said, oh, no, you don't need to do that because we can detect deep fakes. Now, he never told me how he did it. And so supposedly there are someone. If anyone is aware of that, some of the techniques that companies are using, let us know. This is going to be an ongoing issue for a while. Ivelisse, back to TDPSA, Texas Data Privacy and Security Act. Now, what the Attorney General has done is to go after connected car companies who are selling data to insurance companies, which is good. And they're also going after biometric violations. So they're going after the big ones, Meta and so forth. But what about companies like yours and others? Are you having to pay much attention to that? Is that something the smaller companies have to do? And where does data discovery come into play there? A lot of questions for you.
Yeah, that's a lot. I would say we have to pay attention to everything, right? You never know something's happening or a new regulation comes out and just say, oh yeah, we're not gonna pay attention to that one. It may not be, we're on a global footprint, so our Texas presence may not be as great as in some of the other areas of the world, but it's definitely something we would always consider. And then your next question was, repeat it for me.
Gosh, putting me on the spot now. So one of my questions was data discovery. And one thing I am curious, if you knew that you're doing something different for Texas than you're doing for CCPA or the others, I'd be curious about that. But data discovery, I mean, that's not a one and done thing, is it?
No, I mean, I think it has to be consistent. You have to have the right data labeling program in place, data discovery program in place. I really look at it as it's a program and it's an ongoing program. It's not something that you put in place and forget about it. So, I mean, for us, we have a whole team around it. And then we have, even outside of security, another data privacy team. To your point on if we're, we're doing something different in Texas.
Oh,
and
yeah.
other
Is there
areas?
anything
Yeah.
specifically that you had to do for Texas versus CCPA or the others that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but that also wouldn't necessarily sit in our cybersecurity office because we have a dedicated office for privacy.
Got it. And you'll check with them tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
perfect. Now, could you share some of the tools that you guys use in terms of discovering data? I'm curious about this because I always find different things from, go ahead.
I mean, we are a Microsoft shop, so we do use,
Yeah,
Microsoft for our
Usual
data discovery.
suspects.
Yeah, data labeling. That's our primary.
okay, all right, thank you. Your turn. Who's going to ask me a question? Andrew, I would like for you to think of one, but someone else. And Tom, you too, for that matter. Yes, you have one now, Tom. You anticipated. Hang on.
Okay, so
Tell me.
yeah, Dr. Tom Duffy.
Okay.
So you have your network, and the network goes down. You've had an attack, you've had some kind of denial of service, something, and you can't do anything electronic. What are your plans? How do you keep everything up and running? What are your contingencies?
So it depends what we took down, right? For us, we do, I mean, it's part of our incident response plan to be able to communicate offline in case that we don't have the ability to communicate online. I think that's just part of a good incident response plan, depending on what we take down. I mean, and how it impacts operations and what needs to be reported, what doesn't, escalation communications also have to take place. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Sounds like you wanted to continue asking.
Did you want to ask some more? You don't want anybody else to answer what you've said? Oh, I'll let you hold this. I'll let you control this.
So good.
Anybody have any thoughts?
I think that goes to your, excuse me, your data, recovery business continuity plan. Whether you have a cold site or a hot site, depending on how thorough you want to get. IP number, automatic switchover, virtual appliances that you can spin up within, a decent amount of time. That's all preparation that you obviously have to go through. I've been through those programs before, and I will say that they're painful to put together, but it's so worth it in the end because you never know. Coming to Texas, I had no idea that the hurricanes were actually a thing here. So I found out pretty quick, as well as freezing, coming into February and, maybe early March. I'm originally from Southern California, and I moved out here to be closer to my family, who's been out here for about 20 or 30 years, and it finally happened. But yeah, there's a lot of different scenarios here for disasters that we wouldn't necessarily have to deal with in California. So it's really geographic. You have to tune your response plan to the kind of threats that you're going to face, in your geographic location. Obviously here, hurricanes, freezing temperatures in certain times of the year, that's a big thing. Earthquakes, not so much, knock on wood, so yeah.
You left earthquakes. Excellent.
I did.
Follow on.
So, I know a RACI chart is probably outdated because you're agile, so you'd probably do something with a Gantt chart.
Let's hold on that. That's a good question. Are racing charts outdated?
If you're an agile, I'd probably do something like a Gantt chart with a DARE model.
Oh, bless you.
But
Okay, got it. All right.
I don't know what model you use, so that would be my advice.
Okay, no,
And
that's
also
good.
all of your contacts identified and have that
Got it.
off band. So have your contact list identified, know who's responsible for what offline immediately, and have that list ready to go with all the correct and updated information.
No, that's very good, and I'm going to bring you back to you in just a moment. And I just wanted to say that I found RACI charts, even in what I think is an agile corporation I'm serving now, to be quite interesting and quite needed because we're coming up with new standards, new governance in OT area, moving toward Industry 4.0, and people are saying, give me a RACI chart, tell me what I need to do. And it's quite interesting, but you may be right in an agile organization, Gantt charts, that's interesting. Tom, you have one more question.
Okay, so moving on from that, where I'm going with this is tabletop exercises.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about what kind of tabletops do you do, and do you think about things like when the electronics is not there, like hard copies, call trees, those types of old school things, shall we say?
And before anyone answers, let me tell you that one of the best tabletops I've been through is one that his company does, which they do a good thing, and we need to probably get that around, let more people see it. So who has an answer for him?
Well, we can start down here and work our way down. So we do tabletops. We do try to do a few a year, and then we do some that are more extensive than others. Our executive leadership is actually a huge proponent of them, which is great. And every time it's a different scenario. Like I said, we have smaller ones, and then we have some of the larger ones, which are like more of a cyber war game type situation with a more focused audience. And yeah, I think there's always a consideration for the offline, right? How are you going to get to the information if an incident happens and you can't communicate? It's always part of something you have to consider in the plan.
And Neal, before you start, I'd be curious to see if any of your companies, that you serve or yours also just use past incidents they've had as something to tabletop as well. Thank you.
So, yes, lots of people use past incidents to understand exactly what happened, reviewing it, typically in some sort of post-mortem. is how we would focus that. You know, what happened, what could have been done better, how do we move something out of the postmortem and into the actual incident so that it's considered, you know, and remediated in real time or closer to it. In terms of tabletops, the kinds of people that I see, I'm typically trying to bridge a function between sort of network security and application security, which in a lot of places is a completely disparate and uncooperative encounter. So getting one group to talk to the other, and a good way to do that is in a tabletop. Okay, the application went down, the firewall is fine, the network looks fine, everything's okay. Who do you call? What do you do? And you can start to cycle these people into understanding how their dependencies are laid out together. It's a useful technique for getting people to kind of think it through and work together. In terms of, you know, you lost everything, that question about, you know, what if you lose all electronic access? You know, I think the first thing that I look at is, you know, what was the change control? What change was introduced into the environment right before said event happened? Because most big outages I've been involved with typically involved operator error, not external forces. An external event doesn't tend to take the whole environment down. It's not structural in the same way. I mean, it can happen, but it's not that common. It's usually somebody did something somewhere, and how do you capture that in your change control process moving forward?
Good comments. Thank you.
I believe that you absolutely have to have your IRP together, as Eleni was relating to earlier. You have to have all your stakeholders identified, and I would throw in that all your vendors. And what happens usually when you have a problem and you have an emergency, you're always looking for, oh, okay, what is that passcode? What is that account number that we have for Palo Alto or for this company or that company? And everybody's running around, you know, trying to find that information. That's all good stuff to put in your IRP, okay? And I look at that separately from your security plan and your security playbook. I think those are different things that need to be added to it. And I think you develop your playbook through tabletop exercises. And that's what we're gonna be doing this next week, all day. We're gonna go through, you know, a couple different scenarios and try to refine our playbook as far as the nuts and bolts of, you know, what do we do first? What do we do last? What are the critical assets that need to be brought up, depending on what situation we're dealing with? So I think that's all important. And like Neal said, that is a perfect time to get all of your stakeholders together and on the same page. And I'm talking about marketing and communications, legal, you know, HR, the people that you wouldn't typically think of, you know, during one of those response scenarios, but they're all important. And you need those people, you know, especially if there's a breach situation, legal, marketing, communications, to be able to craft messages that are going to be sent to the community or to the students and things like that. So that all comes into play.
Excellent comments. Thank you. Anna?
Yeah, your tabletop is when you have your single pane of glass and everybody talks to everybody, when normally your organization is siloed. So your CISO is usually your person calling the shots. And like, I'm not in healthcare, but I can imagine if you're needing to go offline, you have to also consider your privacy regulations and what you can and can't communicate. So that all has to be encrypted, because it's privacy information. It needs to make sure that anything transmitted is you know, encrypted data at rest and data in transit. But what you do in your tabletops will reflect what you do in real life. So you have to practice. One tabletop a year is not enough. You have to do them repeatedly, and the more you practice, the better you are.
Thank you. A couple of thoughts around tabletops. One is, each of your companies has critical vendors, and critical vendors sometimes have something called incidents, and it may involve you, and you have to report it to the GDPR to somebody within 3 or 4 days. Have you had a tabletop with a critical vendor? Please, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
That is an integral component that I think a lot of people miss, unfortunately. We are going to have several vendors present this coming week during the tabletop exercise. And it's amazing that when you include more and more people, you get more perspective. Things that you may not have even thought of before, they're
Absolutely.
going to bring up, and you're going to go, wow, I never thought of that. Okay, let's write that down. So the more people you get involved, and especially your critical vendors that you use, whether it be CrowdStrike or Palo Alto or NetSync, your vendors or whoever, you know, it's all good to get them involved in this. And I'd say it's worth it. It really is.
Excellent.
As one of those critical vendors, I've been invited to a number of these. Totally being a part of that. Being a part of the tabletop in advance of the crisis is a big win. Helping people craft incident response plans. You know, I deal with crisis, like DDoS is a crisis for the casual user. Someone who sees it 8 times a day is going to have a completely routine view of that. How to not panic, what to look at, bring in critical vendors, especially your security vendors. I totally agree.
Okay, a follow-on question to that is preparing for a tabletop exercise will take some time. You want to get some outside people to help you. Talk about the preparation, somebody a little bit, and something called injects or curveballs that you throw there, you know, to the plan that you see how people respond on the spot. Any thoughts on that? All right.
Well, being 7 months in, you know, we're kind of in the process of planning. And this microphone just doesn't like this, so we're just going to switch over from 1 to 3.
We've got a backup plan, folks.
Exactly. But yes, it does take time and planning, and it's actually in the works, right? So I think the way we go about it is trying to define what our objectives are first, and because once you define your objectives, actually we kind of let the team have a little bit of fun with the injects and make sure part of our rules of engagement is, you know, don't fight the scenario. The goal of the tabletop is really to test certain objectives. So once we've defined the objectives, then we, you know, go further and look at the scenario. And yes, we want it to be applicable to our environment. So do that, and then we basically scope out a team to say, okay, this is when the next one's going to be, and they're the core team of planning it. Obviously, I sit on that team. So honestly, the tabletop exercise for me is kind of, whether it's a tabletop or cyber war games, it's kind of fun. It's one of those things like out of the norm, not out of the norm, but it's like you can have fun with it. And if you make it fun, people enjoy it, and you learn, I think you learn a lot more.
And I was going to say, you can learn a lot from those.
Yeah.
And yeah, the more people you get involved as well.
Comms and, like you said, legal, and, you know, how far do we extend getting the communications team involved? They get excited about it. So, yep.
Excellent. Anybody else? Excellent.
So you were talking about bringing something in and doing a curveball. You can invite your
Injects, yep.
vendors. Yeah, you can invite your vendors and always be left of boom with everybody. If you do invite a vendor, always do a risk analysis before you ever do anything with your vendors, regardless of whether or not they're being invited to the tabletop. But if you wanted to, do a surprise security analysis, do an audit right there on the spot, and see what your third parties are doing. Are they up to date? Are they really your true risk? Because if your vendors are at risk, you're at risk.
Expound on that a little bit. So you invite a vendor in to your tabletop exercise and take it from there.
Do an audit.
Meaning? And you told them ahead of time, or you haven't?
No, just do an audit right there.
And see if they stay?
See if they stay. You don't have to do a full audit, but just do some poking around, do some prodding.
Is this with your
Do it on your tabletop.
Is this with your dreaded
Be
internal audit
left of
department?
boom at all times.
Okay. So I remember one time I was in audit and I was helping out a company, and they were starting to do their tabletop exercise, and all of a sudden the guy that was leading it said, I don't want to do the DR plan. So that told me something right there. That was interesting. Any other questions from the, all right, yep, good. I'm going to come to you next. Yes, sir. Tell us your name, please. Thank you.
Hi, Steve Lupo. Quick question. What have you guys found effective?
Steve, you need to tell us
I'm with the FBI.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm wondering what you found as effective ways or techniques to teach the non-technical workforce the importance of cybersecurity in your organization.
Say that one more time.
Effective techniques or methods to teach the non-technical workforce the importance of cybersecurity in your organization.
Great question. Thank you. You'll agree it's a great question as we think about it.
I think the best thing you can do,
Then we'll ask what the FBI does. But go ahead.
the best thing you can do when you're trying to get people to internalize cybersecurity is start out with a less confrontational approach than this is how you will be punished if you don't follow these rules. But talk about these are things that are going to happen. These are honest mistakes that are going to happen. This is what you do when this happens. And it encourages much better behavior than simply saying, here's 1,000 rules that nobody could possibly follow. Instead, here is the kind of outlook we're expecting you to have, which is slightly different and is not a punishment-oriented thing.
That's great.
Definitely agree. So many things, right, that we do to engage our regular user. During Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we had a whole Cyber Fest, something kind of similar to this. So we had in one of our offices, a lot of our vendors come in and set up tables and give away goodies. And we talked about cyber and we educated our users. And
That's great.
People love free stuff, right? And they love food. So you bring them, you give them free stuff, and you teach them about cyber. So that's one thing we do. Actually, one thing that goes over really well is every Friday we have a 15-minute threat intelligence brief. And our CTI team gets on and they talk about like, what are the latest threats? How are they impacting the organization? And we started doing that. That's a huge hit, right? Because it makes your organization part of your security team. Definitely agree that we're not the office of no, we're the office of we're your partner, and it's a win-win. Another thing we did was actually bring in the FBI, right? And they did a talk at the office and well attended, right? So that they could share information with our users about what they were seeing up in our Minnesota office. So I think there's so much there. When we do the tabletops, you know, one of the tabletops is with our executive team, which is not our super technical team, right? So different types of tabletops.
Thank you, Anna.
So I'm the vice president of ISSA, and we have a fantastic mentorship program. We hand select the top cybersecurity students from all over the Houston area, and they get to shadow with an actual CISO or CIO or an IT director, and they go through the program. I think the program is a year long, and they work with that person directly. They go on, I think, 15 outings, one-on-one, and then they train from the time they graduate all the way up to becoming a CISO themselves, and we help with job placement. It is a phenomenal program at ISSA, and I have to, everybody here, raise your hand if you know Mario Chuck. Okay, so he's responsible for that program wholeheartedly, and he will place you with someone so you can actually learn and shadow. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're getting your second or third master's and you're 52, he will help you get into the program and learn the technical part of cybersecurity. He is phenomenal. He will drive you crazy, but he's phenomenal.
Excellent, thank you. Steve, is there something you've seen that you might want to share with us beyond that? Or if I would give you the mic if you do.
No, I'm always looking for new things
Understand.
that people are doing that we could maybe translate and help them do.
No, that's perfect, but yeah, you can understand why I asked you too, so absolutely. Andrew? It probably will. Okay, we'll gingerly approach this.
Okay. Yeah, it's already started.
Well, why don't you step over here then? Well, I want to hear your question. I'll let you come out and join me. And you, yeah, you're too tall. There you go. So, yeah, tell them your name, your company.
Andrew Brorson. I'm the CEO of Cirrus Cyber here in Houston. And actually, as a follow-up to that, K through 12, we need to add cyber to STEM. That's just a no-brainer.
I like it.
talk to your state and local representatives. Just a little passion project of mine.
Katy, right?
I'm in Katy.
Yeah.
I would love to see
Yeah.
STEM added, and all of us can be mentors for that Cyber Patriot competition. So definitely great follow-up. Budget season. Either you've got the budget locked in for next year, or you're about to unwrap your present here in the next week or two or month. Maybe a little bit discussion about budgets. What are you seeing with the increase of cyber attacks? Are you getting purse strings opened up a little bit more? What does it take for the leadership, the boards, to recognize this is, probably one of the leading areas where you can lose your business, not just lose money in your business?
Excellent, and I'll let you see if you want to ask a follow-up in just a minute. And I'm curious to see, and I just mean this non-politically, did Trump's win, or are people more upbeat about their budgets? But I look forward to your answers to his questions.
I'm not sure about that, but
Not yet.
not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But at Lone Star College, we just created our cybersecurity program. Pardon?
Lucky you.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I just started in this position about 3 months ago, so we've got a lot of catch up to do. My esteemed colleague who's also here, Mr. Pasmino, sitting back there, he's our Executive Director of Cybersecurity.
Raise your hand. Thank you, sir.
He did a great job of starting out our new cybersecurity program and hiring some really good SOC analysts and things like that. So our budget is still forming, but it is being driven by the board itself. They want this done. They want us to completely overhaul the data protection, new policies, new everything. So that's where we're basically getting our marching orders from, and that's going to make a huge difference. If the leadership of whether it's a school, a company, institution, whatever, if they're not behind it, there's no point in it. They have to, supply the blood and the treasure, so that you can go out and do what you need to do to protect your company or your institution. So it has to have their, implicit blessing, exactly, and then to follow the funds. So, that may mean redistributing funds, from other institutions or projects or campuses or things like that. But they understand that at Lone Star College, so I'm very grateful for that.
Your good news is it's a new program. Your bad news, it's a new program.
Yes, guilty on both.
Yes, no, absolutely. Anyone else, please?
A lot of CISOs now are focused on the fact that there's some material disclosure and ultimate criminal liability associated with certain types of failures.
Wow. Yeah.
Some of the things I've seen change are some of them are asking to be an actual part of the management team instead of a subset of the CIO's team. Sometimes they're put on the board in some way. What it translates to in general is a much better focus budget-wise on meaningful cybersecurity problems, because the risk is so much bigger now. With a 72-hour mandatory disclosure mandated by the SEC, a lot of CISOs are seeing a lot more freedom to do more of the right things than they had in the past.
And they're also better protected by the insurance of the company as well, then probably. Yeah. Just if you wanted to say something on that, not anybody else want to follow on that? I'm curious. I want to get into the SEC and some of that stuff in a minute. But did you have something you wanted to say, or not? Okay. Did you have a follow-on question? Yes.
Just in relationship to the leadership, are you seeing more at the board? I'm afraid it's going to echo at the board level. Are you seeing more cyber advisors, cyber background in the C-level or in the board itself?
It's a great question.
Absolutely. You're seeing much more interest from the actual senior leaders in general. So yeah, 100%. And boards now are taking an active interest in very specific cybersecurity programs. Information theft is one big one, but also critical outages in general.
Ivelisse, if you don't mind, could you sort of put you on the spot here? Could you sort of share how your firm handles that reporting to the board and so forth, and maybe the budgeting a little bit, but more reporting to the board? And are they cyber savvy? Thank you.
I think that the board definitely wants to know about cyber. And I think it's more of our responsibility to make sure they understand it, right? So they've already made it clear that they want to know. It's an interesting topic. We're part of the regular board meetings. We have a responsibility to report. We need to communicate it in terms that they understand, so that we're not going into a room and get their attention for 5 minutes and then they're lost, right?
Glazed over eyes.
Yeah, I feel like that's more an I. I have to make sure that
Okay.
I'm communicating effectively to them because it matters.
Excellent. And I'll come back and ask you in 6 months how that's going. Just kidding.
Please
Just
do.
kidding. You had a question, sir. Your name and your company, please.
My name is Tahir, and my company is CyberTech. And I just have a question about, with all the advancements in biometrics and authentication tech, when can we finally stop remembering 1 million passwords, or just let our faces and fingerprints do the work? So in other words, when will passwords finally become obsolete?
Repeat the last part of that because I was busy talking and I didn't hear. Tell us the last part of your question or the major parts.
Sure, yeah. So when will passwords essentially become a technology of the past, right? With all these advancements in biometrics and authentication
Which
technology.
we've heard for 5 years.
Yes, exactly. Or since the beginning of the internet.
Yeah. That's a good question. Thank you. What are y'all companies? What are you seeing, Neal?
Isn't your password your memory questions anyway? Nobody remembers them. And recent guidance has said, let's stop with the crazy 3-month rotations and things because it encourages the wrong behavior. Whether biometrics or some other mechanism are going to take over, it's hard to imagine that happening, to be honest. You can use Face ID on your phone for a lot of stuff, but all it really does is access the password database. So some database of secrets applied to that, it would be useful, but I would love to not have 1,000 passwords and have to track all that. And how many of us even know the passwords we use other than the one we use for our password database anymore?
Anyone else?
They are moving to a user behavior analytic type password.
Who
now.
is they?
Companies.
Okay. Okay.
Companies are. So
Okay.
passwordless is moving towards that and more user behavior analytics. So instead of just having a password, they're measuring you as a user now, entirely. For example, like when you access your services, your devices, they're wanting to make sure that you're in your actual location using your device at an actual time that's reasonable. So measuring your actual entire behavior, not just your face, because obviously face can be spoofed and so can your voice. So they're measuring user behavior whole. And passwordless is also going to be bypassed with encryption pretty soon.
And then we have quantum coming, but also, to your point, a lot of accounts can be compromised, and you have to watch out for that. You had a thought?
And I think that's part of the whole zero trust architecture idea, because I think the main thing behind zero trust is continuous edification or, proving that you are who you are, whether you're logging in at a different time than you usually do, or a different location, or whatever it may be, whatever variable that you're throwing into that. That's all part of the continual process of zero trust. You don't just log in once on Monday and then you're good till Friday, okay, or the next week. That's all part of the framework. So, but I think passwords are still going to be around for a while.
Okay, excellent. I need some help here. Good buddy of mine, Rich Hare, thank you, Rich, said there are some virtual questions out there that I'm not aware of, that somebody has been asking virtually. So who's my contact to help us learn the virtual questions? You stood up, but you're not going to help me with the virtual questions. No worries. Kim, Could Kim or somebody who's helping with this, could y'all find, there you go. All right, my buddy who helped us with the microphone, so I know he's going to do it. Do you want to ask him? Let me ask him.
Go ahead.
If you don't mind. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Is this a good one right here?
One right there.
Question. Most companies already have a DR, disaster recovery, business continuity plan in place. How have companies married that with a cyber resilience program, or are they currently maintained separately? I think that's a great question. And how would you differentiate between, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, don't run off. Between that, the DR and resilience? Is it kind of, yeah, somebody, help me out here. Go ahead. You're eager to answer. Maybe you're not eager to answer.
You have the mics.
Okay. The difference between business continuity, disaster recovery, and then cyber resiliency. Wow, that's a good one. I think you're looking at different variables for each of those things. Cyber resiliency is really, you know, what is your posture? What is your score, basically, if you're looking at, you know, like a continuous monitoring thing for vulnerabilities and things like that. What is your score? Is it going up? Is it going down? That kind of measures your resiliency, I think, as far as like what a multi-level program will give you, and throw in zero trust in there, throw in, you know, maybe FIDO2 compliant MFA, whatever, you know. But I think that's more your cyber resiliency. Business continuity is just keeping the lights on, keeping the data flowing, you know, however you decide to do that, whether it's an offsite, you know, complete replication, or if it's in the cloud. You know, there are many different ways that you can do that. You know, you can go with Zscaler, you can do a custom thing with Amazon, you know, web services or whatever. But I do believe those are completely different things. You know, of course, one will help the other. But again, your resiliency is more, what is your score as far as your cyber posture? You know, that's how I would look at it. But
thank you.
Okay.
No, it's a good start. And anybody else? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen a number of people talk about evolving from active passive strategies in terms of having a backup for something to running active. And the need, one of the underlying needs is, how does your security policy function if you apply it to something that's never seen anything real? Are you porting the policy over? You know, if you're running a shadow site that's never actually used, or a shadow provider that's never used, you don't actually know how it's going to interact with live traffic. So a lot of people, I think, will start to think more of running active and not traditional cold standby or hot standby DR, in favor of some more continuous resiliency. And I would expect to see that continue. It creates a lot of interesting problems with things like WAF policies, especially if you're using multiple CDNs and you've chosen to use their security for that. Lots of interesting problems.
Excellent. Thank you. Where, in your opinion, might even get Mr. Lupo's thoughts on this, where is the most pressure coming from to the planet? Where is the most pressure coming from that impacts cyber risk? It's a good question, huh? And don't hesitate to hold your hand up, Mr. Lupo.
If you take a look at the current you know, status of the world and all the conflicts that are going on right now,
Yes.
I think you are going to be looking at a lot of nation-state
Yep.
actors getting even more active than they have been. That's just going to be the way of the world from now on. You know, whether it be the Middle East conflict, Ukraine and Russia, you know, I mean, there's so many different conflicts going on. And because we seem to be like smack dab in the middle of them, you know, we're going to be a target for those nation-state actors. So, I mean, that's definitely one aspect of it. One interesting statistic that I saw recently, as far as like cyber trends and risks, And I think this was mentioned earlier today in one of the presentations this morning about, how you shouldn't deploy management tools, cyber tools, things like that if you don't plan to use them. I know that seems obvious, but I can't tell you how many times I've walked into, it was her. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into an environment and I noticed something on the budget, $75,000 for, this particular piece of hardware. When's the last time anybody's used it? Oh, I don't know. I mean, that happens a lot. It really does.
Shelfware.
And if you're not going to use it, if you're not going to know how to use it and how to deploy it every day, just don't do it, because you're making yourself even more at risk. Because there was like a 70% increase in the use of remote and management tools to basically exploit businesses and institutions. That's huge, 70%. So obviously the bad guys are getting it. They're like, hey, there are all these tools out there and we don't even know that they're using them, so let's use them ourselves to get in, through the back door. So again, if you're not going to deploy something to use it, just don't.
Yep. And when you go out for stuff, go for free first. Use what you have first. No shelfware. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I feel like, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Where our biggest threats coming from, I think it depends on where we're operating and what you do. And I'm kind of curious to see what our friend from the FBI has to say about this.
Oh, I am too.
But, I think that it's more of the type of attack. I think phishing isn't going away, obviously. I think that, like I said earlier, the bad guy's now selling to the bad guy, and, now there's different techniques, but at the end of the day, it still exists, right? And 100% to the tool question, that also ties back to your budget question. So before you go ask for more budget, let's go see what we're not actually leveraging, and then you could probably stop and not have to go ask for more budget because it's there. It's just not being managed well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Did you want to say something, sir? Bless you.
I think just briefly, the biggest threat in all aspects, AI being the driver of this, is that less technical people are able to use more technical tools to do bad things. They don't need a level of expertise that they used to need. So that I think our director said it best when he said that it makes JV level bad guys varsity level, and it makes the varsity level out of this world good. So I think that's the biggest risk, is that the kid who used to smash your window and steal your purse is now going to get online and find a tool and get into your bank account because he can do it now without any additional training. And that goes for nation states as well, all the way through the gamut.
Steve, thank you very much. Script kiddies and AI, what a combination. Okay, we had a very good question here related to perhaps ageism, perhaps not, but said, what would you advise for someone in late 50s, early 60s to sharpen their skills? Let me make sure I get this right. What advice do you have for a 57-year-old to sharpen his skills?
The whole age conversation, I think it's, age is so relative, right? It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 55. I always say you're a forever learner. I'm a forever learner. The same thing that's available to the 25-year-old is available to the 55-year-old. So it's more about, one, what do you want to do? Where do you want to sharpen your skills?
Okay.
And then once you identify that, I think there's very practical ways to go about it. We talked about boot camps earlier. We talked about mentoring programs. We've talked about, sometimes somebody more senior in their career wants to go into, not hold the same amount of responsibility in a role, so they're willing to go into a more entry-level role, and that may challenge their skills, right? So I think it's more about the individual than the age.
So maybe, and look forward to any other comments as well, but maybe pick out something like cloud skills and go get a couple of certifications? Is that what you're thinking?
I mean, I think that's certainly an option, right?
Whatever you want, whatever you really like.
So for me, I like to see somebody who's willing to learn,
Okay.
right? And so if you're telling me that you're looking to sharpen your skills at that age, you're already willing to learn.
Absolutely.
Right? How self-motivated you are. I mean, when it comes to cloud, do you have a home lab? You know, there's free stuff online that you can do. If you have a formal education, have you gone to like take an additional boot camp class or and identified in the area of cybersecurity you want to be in, right?
Yep.
Because I think, like I said earlier, a lot of people just want to go into cyber, but they haven't decided where. And there's a lot of options.
And he can also ask ChatGPT, can he?
Yeah, for sure.
Any other thoughts on this? Two of you. Good.
For me, I think one of the biggest benefits of being a member of FBI InfraGard are the classes. They have some of the best classes. I mean, things that you're not going to get anywhere else. Ex-CIA agents, ex-FBI agents, you know, naval intelligence people that are teaching these classes. It's incredible. I went through the whole OSINT program, 1 through 6, and after each of those classes, I mean, my brain was like shot. It's like, wow, that really stretches you. And those classes are some of the best ones you're going to find. So it's a good idea to join if you can. But even, you know, ISSA and ISSA, these different organizations, they have like different, you know, programs and classes and things like that. Or, you know, just go to your local community college. You know, they have AI courses, they have cybersecurity courses. In fact, our 2 SOC analysts, they're also adjunct professors for our college. And you can learn a lot of good things, you know, and it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg either, so.
Absolutely. Courses on LinkedIn.
I was going to piggyback. Yes, FBI InfraGard is one of the best organizations you can join if you want to learn about anything regarding cybersecurity. Of course, too. Also, ISSA, great program to learn from. There's organizations like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. They offer a ton of free resources. You can get an entire education from Microsoft for free, and also from Amazon. Lone Star College, excellent cybersecurity program. Chris Wolski also teaches there. He's a fantastic teacher. You can get an you can go anywhere and get an education, and it doesn't have to cost anything. Coursera has fantastic resources online. Just go out. If you're willing to learn, there are a ton of resources out there for you.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, let me find out the best way to get to you. And please tell us your name and company. Thank you.
My name is Linda Verdier, and I'm with Harris Health, and it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, because
Commercial.
I was in the session where everyone was talking about schooling versus boot camps and mentoring programs and everything else, and I almost made this comment then, but I'm nearly 65 years old,
Sure.
okay?
You don't look at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have a certification in law enforcement and never worked in the field. I never had the opportunity. My husband was active duty military when I was young enough to do that. I followed him into information security in 1991. Went into information security in 2004. And have been there ever since, either as an independent consultant or now as a FTE. And so in my nearly 30 years of working with hospital information systems, I have not attended one college class. I've gone to maybe 1 or 2 boot camps, and I have maybe three certifications over the years. Now, the only reason I tell you all this is because, yes, I'm willing to learn. I love my job. I've evolved with the times. But what I'm trying to say is that college or formal learning is not necessarily for everyone. And I may be the more, minuscule exception to that rule, but I don't think I've gotten far as I am in my career for as long as I have without just learning and experience.
Thank you very much. And I think that kind of goes with what you were saying earlier, doesn't it? Does anybody want to make a quick comment on this? I'll even give you mine since they're not giving you yours.
No, I mean, I think that's amazing. Congratulations. You know, I really think that there's multiple paths and it's about the individual, right? Do I value a formal education? Absolutely. I think there's more that you get out of a formal education than just what they're teaching you. But that's not the only way. I mean, I know many people that have gone a different way. So no, I mean, again, we're forever learners. How you learn is kind of up to you.
I'll take mine. Somebody else have to grab. Anybody else have a comment? Okay. You do? You do? You don't? Okay, you don't. One last question? Any other good questions? And I would call on you, Joseph. Not Joseph. Well, yeah, but you would ask a long question. So let me have a couple of comments here. OT actually kind of scares the heck out of me. Melvin, sorry. OT kind of, well, Joseph too, for that matter. OT kind of scares the heck out of me, especially when you talk about medical devices. Does anybody have any comments on that? Or you're in the medical field? Yes, ma'am. Give that lady a microphone. Thank you. Actually, when we have one working microphone, that's right.
So OT is its own beast, right? And you know, I hear like all these people want to get into cyber. Man, go study OT security. That is a space. So before I was in medical, I did most of my career up to now in oil and gas. And one thing is to find, you know, cybersecurity professionals. Another thing is to find OT cybersecurity professionals that understand the OT environment and how the requirements are uniquely different.
Question?
Right? So is it an area of concern? I think it always is. I think as things advance, it becomes more of a concern, right? Because OT has older technology sometimes that's a little bit harder to protect, right? So yeah, there's an area of like, get into OT.
Yeah, OT and IoT. Neal, do me a favor, close us out with some thoughts on threat intelligence. What should we be doing to maximize our use of threat intel? Fair question?
Sure. I think that one of the best things you can do is develop some understanding of what level of open source intel is out there. There's a ton of really good data. Most people give it away for free. They will collect and do it as a service. My company does that as well. You know, generally, everybody's willing to share their perspective on the threat landscape and talk about it. Get involved with their community and, you know, in general on how you can share information together. It's a natural human bond to want to share experience, and you know that whole idea is something that everybody benefits from. Because if you're in one place, you see only your organization and your silo. As soon as you get around and see a lot of other people's perspective, you'll definitely start to understand a bit more about what everything is made up of. It's cool.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Please give a great round of applause for our panelists. Great job, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. I keep telling him he needs to come out of his shell a little bit. I want to give these guys another round of applause because think about it, they can literally be anywhere and probably need to be someplace other than here, and they chose to be with us today. So thank you guys so much. The bar's still open. Head over and get a cocktail. And I also would like to thank all of our sponsors because without them, we would not be here either. So we appreciate all of you guys, and we appreciate all the prizes that you gave us because that's what these guys are waiting for. So give them a round of applause. All right. You guys can come on out.